Final Fantasy VII Part 3 Revelations was finally revealed. The spring 2027 released on all platforms all at the same time. I'm so excited for this. I've watched this trailer like 4 times. I've recorded this video like 3 times. I screwed it up. We're going to speed through this a little bit. I'll link the trailers and the tweets and the sources that I find, but I'm just going to call out and break down everything that we saw that are like very important details or details that you might have missed. If you want to watch the trailers in full, I'll have them linked below and you can look at the all of that. Just I'm gonna be going through this. We'll be listening to parts and we'll be skipping some parts. But the first thing I want to call out, this is the opening trailer. It's the first thing we ever seen. This was the first image that anyone saw. And it's kind of interesting that I pulled up my footage from when I beat uh remake and I wish I could do this. The stars are inverted, or this is the edge of creation and it's inverted, which why is it inverted? I'm not going to speculate. It's just interesting that it's inverted. It could mean that we're just coming to the conclusion of revelation with this revelation, or that things have changed. I'm not going to conjecture too much. Just wanted to point out that this is flipped. Also, one thing to note, just Revelations is the last book in the Bible. And Genesis is the first book in the Bible, which for those of you who played Crisis Core, that's just a callback, I think. I also think that might be a little bit why they picked the name. Now I'm going to transition into this image right here, just because there's a detail in it that I think is pretty interesting too. Because when Aerith says that what's the sign gonna be? She's like, she puts her hand up in the air and she's like, I'll send up smoke. And then when you have this image, this is very reminiscent to smoke. There's Aerith sending up smoke. Also, just very huge in your face. Aerith and Zach are here. I love this. There's so much going on here. This is a great art piece for this. I just wanted to point that out there while we get into some of this breakdown. And then there's one other thing I'm going to show is this tweet. I love her so much. She does great translations. This will be linked down below. I'm going to cover some of that before we go into some of the trailers, just so you know what to expect. This is from the interviews. He did interviews at Max Dude's house. I don't have a link to that below, but you can find that on YouTube, just where we learn some of these ideas. She breaks it all down here, also with some of the other interviews, but she talks about the high winds available at the very beginning of the game. We have different jobs that we're going to be able to also unlock very early in the game. There's going to be more on that when I get to the trailer, but they're called fits. Each character has up to 4 fits. And then player choice will have consequences, unlike in Rebirth, that will affect the storytelling. Each player might end up with a completely different experience. More on that in a second. The high wind can go anywhere. I'm speeding through some of this. Vincent's gameplay allows him to go into the human and beast form with one button. There is no time limit, similar to how Yuffie uses hers, but I want to come back to that because when you look at the trailer, there is some indication of there maybe being stacking buffs or diminishing returns, because there's a little 1 icon. I'll point it out when we get to it. The return of synergy abilities. Sid has aerial combat. This is the part I want to focus on right now. Zach will be more of part 3 and play an important role. And the idea of multiple timelines is conveyed through Zach's presence in his part of the story. Don't want to get into the theory of if there's alternate timelines, like there's 3 timelines, or if it's past, present, and future. I like seeing it as Zach is a storytelling medium. I could care less on if it's alternate timelines or multiple timelines. It's just the fact that we get more Zach just means that we're going to get a more fluid and coherent story compared to the original. And I love Zach as a storytelling medium, so I'm very excited for that. Then they just talk about some VA stuff. The Wu Tai is fleshed out and the Turks will be a part of it. I feel like some of this is pretty obvious. Rocket Town was in the game, or is in this game. They wanted it in Rebirth, but they decided to push it back to Revelations instead. That makes sense to me. The underwater area, which I expected to be in the game, I'll call out what I think's the underwater area when we get to the trailers, but there's no details on that. They want to do justice to the Knights of the Round, and there's currently in development. Now, this is the important part. And then after this, I'll probably just link this tweet below, and then you can read the rest of it. But Final Fantasy VII Revelations does indeed have an ending. It is one that we would be proud of and serves to the conclusion of the series that has taken up 10 years. And it will be an ending that you will just have to experience yourself, and does not like the idea of multiple endings, as the creator wanted to deliver a confident ending in the remake series. However, the player choices and revelations will highly affect the outcome that you get, actually changing the storytelling of the game, which I take it as there is a definitive ending. There is one ending. How we get there is going to vastly be different. That's what I take it as. There's going to be one ending. We're going to have one conclusion. We don't have to worry about anything else. And we can all come to terms of what that will be in our own way. But yeah, I love her. She's great. Link this down below in case you want to watch it, or if you want to read this for yourself and get some more of the interview. That's all I'm going to cover now. I'm going to start breaking down the trailer. Hopefully it's not too loud. And we're going to speed through some of this stuff. One thing I want to note, if you're listening to this, also, this is just the reunion of all of the boys, all of the hooded figures, and Sephiroth just aura farming, carrying Cloud. This is so pretty. But one thing to note, I just want to call it out. When you're listening to the trailer, especially the first one, everything's in the past tense. I don't know if that's on purpose or if it was a director's choice, but he is saying everything in past tense as if it's already happened, which is just interesting. This is looking like a weapon. Don't know what weapon. This is no, this might be Diamond Weapon, I think. I believe this is Diamond Weapon. Or it could be Sapphire. I'll call them all out. Okay, this is Diamond Weapon. This is my theory. We know that we have Diamond Weapon, Sapphire Weapon, Ultimate Weapon, Ruby Weapon, Emerald Weapon. I don't think we have Omega or Jade, but I believe that was Diamond Weapon, and I'll call them all out in the trailers when we get to them. Now, and this is just the Northern Crater. Those who fight. I said, long story short, I did talk about the high wind, but basically we can go everywhere at any time with the high wind. It's going to be the main form of transportation. And we all have parachutes. I just love how Vincent just jumps out like a pencil. This is Medial. When we get to the other trailer, I'll break some of this stuff down. And then this is the showcase of some of Vincent's combat. They expand on this in the next trailer, and I'm going to be breaking it down quite a lot when we get there. And then this is just Sid's gameplay. A lot of aerial combat. This is one thing I want to try. That Tifa moment. Also, the outfit, I'm going to cover that. This is one of the jobs. This is her Black Mage job. But the thing I want you to call out here is the words that she says. And it's almost like she's talking to Aerith. Make you proud. Oh, I missed it. Do this. I can do this. I'll make you proud. I can do this. I'll make you proud. It's like she's talking to Aerith. This is Cloud's warrior fit. I'm actually going to skip some of this. This is, and I'll get to that when we get to the trailer. But this is my conclusion. This is the weapon that I think saved Tifa when she fell into the reactor in Gangala. Sorry, I always say it wrong. And that would mean if we're in Medial, this is Ultima weapon, which does sort of make sense. However, there's two in the reactor, the two whales. So it's interesting. They did say, and then this is Ruby weapon, and that's what I think is Diamond weapon. And now I don't think there's anything too much left to call out here, other than Cloud or Sephiroth was holding the white materia. But we just get the date. This part I want to call out.
Never would have made it this far without you guys.
I think this is the Forgotten Capital. And I'm going to go back and pause so you can see why I say that. So the flowers are very reminiscent of Aerith. I missed it. Of course I did. The flowers are very reminiscent of Aerith. Oh my god, I did it again. Okay. You can see the flower, okay? I think this is the Forgotten Capital. You have both wisps in the background. That's very important here. That's how Rebirth ends. And the yellow flowers, let's see if I can do this. Yeah, is influence of Aerith's, or no, excuse me, I think it's part of Aerith's influence, whether that Aerith casted holy or it proves that Aerith still has some hold on the world. I think that's what this is showing because every time there's yellow flowers, Aerith has been there. It's either she's planted them herself, they're in the church, or she's giving them away like to Cloud at the like very beginning of remake. So I feel like this is some indication of Aerith's influence, whether it be she's part of the planet or if she casted holy. That's my interpretation of that. And this is we're just gonna go on to the next trailer. That's I don't want to get too much into it. And now it
Sure.
starts off at the exact same
World's in
part.
trouble.
We go back. Oh, it's
So
a
what are
little
we
bit
waiting
loud.
for?
Let's go kick
Let's give
Sephiroth.
Sephiroth the beating of a lifetime.
Yeah. And now we go into this trailer. I'm gonna just let it play for a little bit. I
As
think
we
this is
reunite with our
Medial
heroes,
because you
the
can
meteor
tell by
looms in
some of
the
the
skies
medical
above,
equipment in the
a
background.
constant reminder
And
of
then
our
we're
mission.
just visiting some
The grave
areas that we've
threats you
been to again
confront
with
as you embark
Junon.
upon your journey,
And
will
of
face
course,
the
Mr.
epic
Hojo.
conclusion of the remake
Now, this part
series.
I want to call out because Sephiroth seems way too happy. And I don't know if I'm playing too much into this, but at the end of Rebirth, Cloud was kind of like shaky, under the influence of Genova, starting to go crazy. And I think from his body language here, he is handing over the black materia over to Sephiroth so he can cast Meteor. And I think he's still under Genova's control here. This is what that looks like to me.
Of the
Now we'll
remake
go back
series.
into more of High Wind.
Aboard the Highwind, your
I'm
very own
actually probably going to
airship
skip
and the
some of
pride
this
of the
because
Shinra
it's a
fleet,
lot of
you'll
the
take to the skies and witness our most
this one
expansive
part
open
though I
world
want to call
lands.
out. Actually, I'll
The
just let it
outskirts
play
of Midgar,
because
the sun-drenched
when
Ideal
we jump
Archipelago,
out of the High Wind
the
here,
warrior nation of
Cloud
Luton,
is very
simply pick a
not there.
direction
So I
and
think
set
this is
sail.
the party going
But
to
how can we be
Medeal to
expected
save
protect the
Cloud
whole
because
world
when
at
you
once?
watch, there's
We
no
need to come back
Cloud
faster.
on that ship.
I am not
And
stopping.
when everyone jumps off, Tifa's leading the pack. She's got to go save her man, and everyone else is like, okay, yeah. And she's, I mean,
Any
like
moment
she's
in the open
first.
world,
And
simply
we're
pilot
this
the
looks
Highwind to
like
your
Medeal
destination and take a leap
from
of
the
faith.
images that we've seen. And then when it cuts onto the next part, you see Tifa,
Seamlessly from the sky
well, one
above to the
landing, but she
ground
goes
below.
into Medeal
Where will the
with
winds
all of
guide you
Shinra,
first?
with Barrett
That
and
for you
Cloud.
is
She is the party leader here. She's the one in charge. So this is where I would think we're coming into Medeal. And then Yuffie,
That for
I
you
like this
is in the
turtle. I love
brand.
this turtle. This is
But no
Wu
matter your
Tai.
destination,
They show
to
some
defeat
of
your enemy, you'll
now.
need
They show some of Wu Tai, but this is the part I want to talk about. They show it for like 2 seconds later.
a fighting
Oops. The chocobos, this Pico, we learned this from the interview. The chocobos are needed for exploration. There's only one chocobo, Pico, and he gets his abilities based off story progression that allows you to unlock new areas. So just like Rebirth, like the Nibelheim one and the Cosmos Canyon ones are the most notable one to me, where like you use the water propulsion in order to travel, and they show that like right here, I think. If I go, what are we at? So if I show you right here, hopefully, this is the the mode of transportation or the abilities that Pico has. And you can see him, he uses the water jump. So there's going to be more of that in the game. So that's how we're going to get around. This almost looks like Gangala still. This could be Medeal. It's hard to tell. I can't exactly fully tell. But yeah, Pico's going to be another great way of transportation.
Everyone assembles at Cloud's side, forming an epic ensemble of heroes, each with their own story. That
And
brings you
now
closer
I'm waiting for
together
the
now.
next part that we get
But
a
a good
call out.
unit needs
Okay,
more
so
than
this
friendship to
part
save.
also is, I think this is the Northern Crater. I think this is very reminiscent of Genova. Also because Cloud and Tifa aren't here, because most notably, they fall into the live stream. So this is where they could run, and now the party's trying to find them.
Of the day,
That
it
would
needs a
be
disciplined
my
combat
interpretation of that.
regiment.
And now we go
Blueprint
into the
battle
combat.
system established in Remake
So if
and
you listen to
refined in
what he
Rebirth.
says that it was created in Remake, the hybrid system, refined in Rebirth, and perfected in this game. And it's a lot of just rebirth.
Perfected in
You're gonna
Revelation,
see
putting even more power
perfected in Revelations. I said
in
rebirth
your
twice.
hands.
It's a lot
In
of what
fluid,
you're familiar
real-time
with.
action,
There's
seamlessly
synergy
switch
systems.
between
When they
party
open
members
this
to
up, you're
even the
gonna see
odds.
that again. So
Then,
if you
when the fight
liked
calls for
Rebirth,
strategy,
you're gonna see
enter
more
tactical
of that.
to unleash a suite of powerful new
And
spells
just
and
like
abilities.
this.
Activate
And now
devastating
one thing I want to note when we get to the summons,
synergies with your companions.
because Cloud has 3 summons and there's one summon bar, and when we get to the menu, I'm actually going to skip to the menu after this. So because I think a lot of this is familiar, and I wish this would go away. But you can see it says stagger type and element. So I think this is an indicator of what each, like, they're different abilities. So like, and we don't know necessarily what stagger does, as if does it increase stagger gauge or does it increase like stagger damage? Because if it increases stagger damage, when you stagger an enemy, it does 160 usually. If its abilities can increase that to now go to like 180 per ability or 200 per ability, that's could be what an Ifrit summon does. If not, it's just increasing stagger. But I think these symbols are indication of what type of summon it is and like what it does. Does it break enemy stagger gauge? Does it increase stagger gauge? And then I think this is just like elemental affinity added to it.
And of course,
Um,
call on
and
mighty
then we
summoned
get
entities that
I'm
can
gonna
turn the
skip this
tide of
because
battle.
we've seen Ifrit. Now we gotta go into
Return
Vincent
to my
gameplay.
coffin.
I love Vincent. There's a lot to break down here. They say he
Vincent
can
is a deft
transform
gunslinger,
into
capable of
his
delivering
area.
precise,
Oh,
high-yield
actually,
shots.
before I go into that, this I think is the underwater area, because in the original game, Lorcira, I can't say his wife's name. The woman that Hojo experienced on that's related to Vincent was in the underground or underground. I suppose it is underground, underwater area, in the crystal caves, which I think looks a lot like this. This could also be the northern crater. They're very similar, but I think this is the underwater area. Also because that's related to Vincent, and the fact that you're using Vincent right now, and there's a little bit of a mini game here, makes me think that's what this area is. But
there's
now
more to
we got to
this
talk more
secretive form of
about.
Turk than meets the
I
eye.
want to. I have to pause this
Result,
really soon because for those of you who played
experimentation.
Rebirth, know that you're going to play as Sephiroth for a moment, and there's a combo with Sephiroth when he uses his attack. I'm actually going to slow it down so you can see it. And then he's got like combo based abilities, and this Retribution's going to turn into Retribution Prime after he uses an attack and it hits right there. So that to me kind of is a callback to when Sephiroth was playable in Rebirth in that one chapter, and he had a lot of combo based abilities. So I think that's what Vincent has here. That he has some combos. Also, they talk about it here is that he gets to use his beast form at a press of a button, and they say that there's no time limit on it, but this one here, maybe it stacks based off of like time that he's in the form, and it gets weaker over time, or maybe when it like completes a stack, he gets another bar on the synergy gauge. I don't know exactly what that is, but it was just something I saw. We don't know enough yet. I'm gonna skip Sid. Sid just does aerial attacks and AoEs. Now I want to go straight into Barrett when we get to here. Now this is the jobs we talked about. It. There's 4 per character. We're gonna get into the menu. I personally, we know we have Warrior and Black Mage because it's called out in the trailer, and I'll point it out when we get there. I personally think this could be Paladin, and I would expect Paladin, Warrior, Black Mage, White Mage, Monk, Dragoon. They say Warrior and Warrior. Those are like some of the most pivotal and common classes in Final Fantasy, and they're recurring a lot, so I'd expect to see them again. Also, one thing to note, the director said this, say this is Warrior. I think this is Paladin, but it could be Warrior, but say whatever it is. If this is Warrior, this is what they think Barrett would look like as a warrior, not necessarily what they think a warrior would look like. And then the
For the
next one
battlefield,
is we
skill
go
with the
on to
weapon
Cat
only gets
Sith,
you so
and this is for sure Summoner. It's got the horn. Summoners are very common with the horn. We know this. Everyone who plays Final Fantasy knows this. This is a Summoner robe. I guarantee it. I'm willing to bet one copy of Revelations on this.
far. To further augment your combat capabilities, try this on for some
Okay, now I want to break this down real quick because
abilities. Try
I just want to make this callback because would you look at that? Oh, excuse me. Would you look at that? Hmm. Hmm. It's their OG. It's their OG emblems or player icons. I love this so much. It's just a callback to the original game. I'm glad they did this. It's like so good. So many people have called this out. I didn't notice it on my first time, but I'm glad someone pointed that out. There's a lot to talk about on this page. First off, let's just start in this area. The linked materia is back, so your synergies and your magnifies will be able to link with your elementals or your elemental materia or the elemental materia. That's a mouthful. So I'm that system's gonna be back. So if you're, it seems to be about the size of rebirths. Rebirths was a little bit bigger than remakes, so expect that. They still have the same abilities that you know you're gonna have to use and proficient in to unlock those. But yeah, all the abilities. It seems like it's gonna be a lot of rebirth with this system. I don't see a lot of changes to this. The materia system, this is where I see it as the summoning materia gets to be team based. You get 3 slots for your team rather than in the previous 2 games, it's 1 per character. And for example, like if Cloud had Ifrit attached, only Cloud could summon Ifrit. This way, I think it's just a way around it where that you can always just you can summon any of the 3 summons that you have equipped rather than only Tifa could summon one and only Cloud could summon one based off of your summon gauge. I think it's just simplifying the system. Then they have some stats here. I haven't played Rebirth in a little while. These 3 symbols don't look like they're in Remake. This could be LB. This is almost like the synergy gauge or your ATB gauge, like haste almost, like how fast your ATB gauge builds up, and that would make sense that it's at 0%. I also don't know what this is, but the stats seem like there's strength, magic, defense, magic resist, HP, luck. That's all the same. These 3 are unfamiliar. If someone happens to remember what those, please let me know. But I just want to
try
call
this
that
on
out.
for size.
Now we're going to go into the
Function
fits,
integrated tactical.
function integrated tactical something styles. This is fits. This is the warrior fit. This is what Cloud would look like in a warrior. They each have
Super,
different
or the
and
fit
unique
system for short,
combat.
allows you to further customize your
Further
play style with new
customize their
uniforms
play
and
style
unique
with
movesets.
unique uniforms and movesets. I'm just repeating what the trailer said. This is Tifa's Black Mage. I love her outfit. We know we talked about the her like callback to Aerith or trying to make Aerith proud. They have indicators of the symbol of that she is a Black Mage when you're in combat. Besides just the uniform, you can change the uniforms too. If you want to be in her original outfit while being her Black Mage, you can do that. Or you can be in her Black Mage outfit while playing Monk Tifa. You can do that too. But yeah, just unique playstyles
Alongside your
adds to
equipment and
different
materia,
abilities
Fits
that
gives
you
you
can
an
use
extra edge in
and
battle.
gives
To
different
face what's coming, you'll need
the audio is actually turning me off. Have different edges in battles. I think it's just better because now it's another way to change gameplay.
all the strength you can muster.
Now we go into
Sensing its
Medial.
fate
I already
hanging in the
called this out.
balance,
This
the
I
planet
believe this is
itself
Ultima
unleashed its
weapon.
last line of
I
defense.
don't want to
The
pause
weapon,
this until we get
ancient
to
beasts that are
a
larger
later
than
part in the
life and
trailer.
capable of
But
untold
he did say in an
destruction.
interview
Will
he
you be
wanted
enough
to
stop
call
them
out
before it's too late?
that like you normally a party wouldn't be able to slice down a building size entity. So they wanted to make it a little bit more interactive rather than some of them were like mini games where you might have to do something like this during this battle. You have to make sure you keep the barricade up, for example, or there's some type of different interaction to make these weapon fights feel more like not inclusive, more personal or more involved, essentially, rather than you just standing at the foot of a boss and slicing it to death. So, kind of like how the ending fight in Rebirth was, but I'm very interested. They said they definitely did some things with the gameplay wise that'll make these fights very memorable. Almost kind of like Final Fantasy 16 for those who've played that,
The
where those
world is torn
big
apart.
cinematic
You and your
interactive
friends must
experiences.
unite. In Revelation,
That's some
we
same
come to the
traversing.
thrilling conclusion of the Final
And
Fantasy
then this
VII
is
saga.
Tifa
And
Jail.
your mission is clear. Take up
I
your
want to
Buster
get to
Sword,
the
equip your materia, and stand
okay,
together.
one call, two calls out here. Everyone is like looking at Cloud like he's crazy and standing away from him. I think this is like the time when everyone's like, "Oh, your friend just died," and Cloud's like, "Let's go snowboarding." So everyone's looking at him like he's crazy. They're getting some distance from him. They're showing some separation there. Which every other time that Cloud talks, he seems to be very coherent and like all there, where this time everyone's looking at him like, even Sid's face is like a little bit
And
concerned.
stand together.
And then I think this is Genova, Headless Genova, because Sephiroth took the head. So of course Genova would be headless here.
One
But yeah,
last
some of the
time.
things that I've noticed, I talked about this with the Chocobo abilities. I don't think there's any other details that I missed that I wanted to talk about. Um, but also, this is Sapphire weapon. If you want to look at the trailer where it attacks Junon, I'm not going to talk about it. I think I covered all the details and broke down everything that I wanted to. I'm going to be breaking down everything that when we get significant chunks of information, I'll break it down. I have lots of plans for this game, so if you're excited, I hope you stick around. You can like and subscribe. You can come back. You can tell me I'm wrong. Always tell me if I'm wrong. I want to get details right. But I hope this was gave you enough information of what we learned over the last couple of days. So hope you appreciate it. Hope you're excited for Revelations. And as always, I hope you have a great